Okay, this is the underside of my pump. So what am I doing all this for? Okay, this is the air inlet, and it goes into the baffle plate, and I'll put a picture on the screen. The baffle plate is on the inside. Now, what I want to do, because I've got desk space in my enclosure, I want to mount my pump back here. So what that means is that I need to extend this air tube or this air hole outside my enclosure to make sure the pump is only sucking in fresh air. So what my theory is, I'm going to take out the internal baffle plate, which I'll show you in a second. I've created my own baffle plate to go on the outside, which will then allow me to extend 4mm tubes away from the pump through that hole, and that will suck in fresh air. So let me just take the cover off the pump. So if you take the bottom cover off, you get a little rubber foam gasket, and then this is the baffle inside. So this is what makes it really quiet. If you take that off, it becomes unbearably loud, so you can't use your pump. So now let me take that off. Okay, so this is the baffle plate inside, and now you can see we've got two holes. This is the original hole, and this is the bolt that secures that onto that. So my idea is that now when that goes, I'm going to take this gasket off as well. Be careful, that's very fragile. So my theory is the pump can now suck in almost double the volume of air into the pump. And if you've never seen inside a pump, that's what it is. And basically you've got two transformers which somehow alternate each other, I think. And this plastic shuttle then moves side to side like that. So one side is pumping, the other side is sucking in, and as it reverses which side is sucking and which side is blowing. And that does give quite a nice smooth laminar flow out of here. Anyway, let me get my gadget. So my gadget is here. So this is my second iteration, and this is going to go on like that, and there's two of them. That's going on that way. So my theory is here I'm gonna have 4 tubes sticking out here, which will go outside my enclosure. I've made the wiggly route to try and reduce the sound. In my first revision, I didn't come all the way up here. I sort of made it rectangular to fit inside the rubber feet, but I got my measurements slightly wrong, and I had to use a file to file it down to test fit in between the rubber feet. But then I thought, Andy, you're being stupid. I can get slightly more root, and I can make the sides slightly thicker, so it's easier to glue up, and hopefully you got more surface area to seal between the MDF in my case and the metal. And then you would have a plate which goes that way, no, this way. Then you have a plate that goes over that, which seals it all up, and then you use the 2 existing screw holes here and here to screw it into the bottom plate. So let me get it glued up and I come back. I'm just going to give that 3 or 4 minutes for the glue to take effect. Then I'll take the clamps off, clean out all the squeeze out, and then I'll put the clamps back on for another 10 minutes, and then I'll glue the lid part on. There we have my device in place, and the big gap goes the side of, in my case, side of the wires, because the wires and then the extended tubes will go out the enclosure. So I'm just now going to glue the top on, and when you're doing it, just make sure you glue the top on the right side. So here's the parts assembled. So now we need to glue, we now need to put the 2 parts on, making sure that that is that way, 2 holes that way, and then it goes down that way, and then I'm going to screw it together. So there we have the part assembled. So just make sure that the rubber feet are where the part is, and you don't screw it in this side. Don't ask me how I know that. So I put the washer on. Now I'm going to install this part here, this way. So the tubes are coming out the side, in my case where the wire comes. Okay, this is a test with my clear hose ins at 6mm with my new baffle plate on the bottom. And yeah, that's it, no restriction. So the pump is, I would say the pump is very slightly noisier than the standard setup, but that now the silver ball is hitting the top of my gauge, so that's better airflow. I'm now going to test the standard black hose. So this is now the standard black hose, no brass nipple on the pump. My clear hose converting the black hose to fit the gadget and the pump, and that is a reading. You can see how much difference is between a 4mm hose and a 6mm hose, and that's the connection. Listen for the sound. So my baffle plate is working really well. Now I'm going to install the tubes and do the test again. So this is just sucking in here. You can just see that. No tubes at the moment. So put a bit of tape around the tubes, a known distance from the edge of the tube to there, and when you then press it into the gap, you want that to go in about 10mm. So if from there to there is 30, then from the gap to the piece of wood will be 20, and that's far enough. So something like that. And now what I'm going to do, probably not the best method at the moment, but it's all I've got. I'm going to pick those up, squeeze some hot glue from right in there, right in where that silver bit and the black bit is, right in there. Then push those tubes down and then build the hot glue around here, being careful not to go much higher or any higher than the surface of the MDF, because there's not much distance between the feet and the top of the MDF. There's a little bit, but not much. So let me glue that up and we'll do the noise test and airflow test. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get some hot glue down here. So then there's hot glue between this black part at the top and the tubes, and then let that cool slightly. Then move the pump in this orientation, and then build up the hot glue from this silver base up around it, making sure you're sticking onto the MDF. Then once that's all secured, I've got some heat shrink, I believe, somewhere, that I can put some heat shrink just over these tubes to tidy it up so they don't go all over the place. If you haven't got heat shrink, you can use 50mm wide masking tape. That'll probably do perfectly adequately. Right, so here we have my bottom gadget installed with 5 air tubes going through the side. The bottle of anti-fire spray is just stopping the mains cable rattling on the side of the enclosure. Let's see what air we've got. So that is hovering. Let's get that down there. Why is that different? So what I'm seeing is the ball, bottom of the ball, looks very slightly different on the screen. The bottom of the ball is, that's strange, just below 20, but we go by the screen because the screen is recording the actual figures that the screen sees. Now if I move that down there, it must go up there a bit then. So that's what I'm probably seeing there. Anyway, it's not hammering at the top, but I have to now compare back with other videos what it is. So let me now put on my 6mm tube. This is the black tube. So this is the clear tube, which is 6mm internal diameter and slightly more than the black tube, but not by much. Even with me looking at it, the ball is very slightly higher than with the black tube. Let me make sure I've got no air leaks. No air leaks, so I think that's a fair test. I'm just going to put the black tube back on just to confirm my test. So this is the black tube again, and that is the silver ball is halfway on the 20 line. Okay, so this is now my 6mm tube all the way through, and that's really rattling at the top, as you can see, with the double connection like that. Nice and quiet. Now I'm going to do the same for the black tube. So this is the black tube now with just my clear conversion pieces at each end, with the pump connected like that. Is the noise. So you definitely do get more flow with the bigger tube, and I think that's to be expected just through physics and resistance. So I will try and tabulate the results in some form of table, and then we can discuss the way forward. This is the flow test, standard pump with brass nozzle. Flow test, brass nozzle removed, just using the black tubing. So this is test number 5, airflow. So this is the front cover removed, 8mm pipe with the black tube right at the end doing the restriction, and that is the flow rate. Well, thank you to make it to the end of this video. So what can I conclude from the test results that we've seen? Well, firstly, that I haven't made it worse. Secondly, I've made it slightly better. So now that I have my pump inside my enclosure, it's sucking the fresh air from outside. So the performance of the air assist in the actual nozzle will be exactly the same. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, please leave them down below and I will do my utmost to answer them. See you in the next one. Thank you for making it to the end of my videos, much appreciated. If you like what I'm doing and I've earned your trust and respect, perhaps you would consider subscribing. If you leave a comment, I will answer them as well. And if you give me a thumbs up, it will put a smile on my face. Perhaps you would like some of the videos popping up now. See you in the next one.